And welcome back, everybody. In 2020, a man named Tim Bliefnick appeared on an episode of Family Feud. And when asked what the biggest mistake was on his wedding night, his response was, saying I do. That answer is now back in the headlines as he stands trial in Illinois for his wife's murder. Police and prosecutors say Timothy Bliefnick was going through a contentious divorce with his wife, Becky, when they claim he decided to break into her home and kill her in February of this year. Bliefnick is charged with first-degree murder and home invasion. The prosecution says Becky told friends that she was scared of what the defendant might do to her to get custody of her kids. Bliefnick had the couple's 3 sons at his home the night of the murder and allegedly left them alone to go commit the crime. His defense team argues that this case is, quote, dripping with reasonable doubt and that a divorce alone is not enough to convict their client. Friday concluded the first week of the prosecution's case, and they took the morning to call a Quincy police detective to the stand. He said the last activity from the victim's cell phone was an attempted 911 phone call at around 1 a.m. on the day she was killed. Also read aloud was the defendant's internet search history found on his cell phone.
Homelyville.com, how to open window from outside.
Yes.
Google search, can I force open my door with a crowbar if I locked myself out?
Yes.
Homeemergency.wonderhowto.com, how to open almost any door with easy lockpicking trick.
Yes.
Phone was used to search how many cops in Quincy, Illinois.
Yes.
Next slide. Phone was used to search how to make a homemade pistol silencer.
That is correct.
Phone was used to search average Quincy Police Department response time.
That's correct.
How can I check if a gun is registered to me?
That's correct.
Can you just wash off gunpowder residue?
That's correct.
Can you identify if a shotgun shell was shot out of a specific gun?
Yes, sir.
The searches on the cell phone do not tell you that Tim did those searches, correct?
Correct.
And they do not tell you who had possession of that device the time those searches were made, correct?
Correct.
And in this case, you do not have any information of the location of the phone the time those searches were made, correct?
Correct.
And you don't know who initiated those searches, correct?
That's correct.
Simply that those searches were done on that device, correct?
Yes.
With the exception of one visit to one website, there are no times and dates associated with any of these searches, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, anybody getting Brian Walsh vibes? I mean, Mike, those are some pretty damning searches. You think the defense's cross made them seem any less damning?
Well, you know, as defense attorneys, we really can only work with what we have. I do, though, like, this is not a conversation, like we said before, that somebody's having at a bar. It's in a courtroom where the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think one of the things that is a good argument for the defense here is, listen, these are searches you could find answers for on the website. They're not necessarily illegal, the questions he's asking, nor do they tie to the fact of who committed the murder. Although, once again, circumstantial evidence is always a tough argument for admissibility, but it does create strong circumstantial evidence. But is there proof to make it proof beyond a reasonable doubt?
And aside from those texts, Terry, before she died, Becky sent a text to her sister saying that if any harm comes to her, the authorities should look at her husband. Would that support an argument maybe this was a crime of passion?
I don't think this is really a crime of passion here. I think this was premeditated. It really does sound like, based on the text and based on the witness testimony that we heard from a former colleague of her husband, that she expressed concerns about him and that the authorities should look at him if anything should happen to her. So the fact that she was in fear of her life means that something's going on prior to that event. Usually when you have a crime of passion, it's something that was provoked or it's in the moment. I don't think we have that here. And of course, you have all of those searches that he was doing. And again, it shows that he was thinking about the crime, a silencer, how long it takes the police to come. That's something that is very premeditated, in my opinion.
By the way, what a 180 from the way he appeared back in the day to now. Just pretty unbelievable. But the discussion's not going to end here, because when we come back, police detail what they found at Tim Bliefnick's home that could tie in with those very suspicious internet searches. Stay with us. We're finishing up today's show with more key testimony in the trial of Tim Bliefnick. He's the former Family Feud contestant from Illinois accused of shooting and killing his wife. In the last segment, we uncovered internet search history from the defendant's cell phone. He Googled questions such as how to make a homemade pistol silencer and can you identify if a shotgun shell was shot out of a specific gun. On Wednesday, a sergeant for the Quincy Police Department went through items that were found in Bliefnick's home. His testimony may explain the motive behind some of those searches.
Not only were there boxes of unfired bullets, there were boxes of spent shell casings.
This Winchester box that we see here, is that what you're talking about, where there were spent shell casings?
Yes.
When you found, let me go back, there were multiple shell casings found around Becky Bliefnick's body on February 23rd, 2023.
That's correct.
What caliber were those shell casings?
9mm.
In that box, what millimeter of shell casings that were fired did you find?
9mm. In common usage, is referred to as a gun safe.
And you would have a gun safe in your bedroom to possibly store a gun in, is that right?
Yes.
Did you in fact open that gun safe?
Yes.
When you opened that gun safe, was there anything in that gun safe in the defendant's bedroom?
Nothing at all.
You said that there was a purchase history for the defendant as well with regard to a 9mm handgun.
Yes.
What kind of handgun was that?
There were two 9mm handguns, one being a Ruger LC9 9mm and one being a Ruger SR9 9mm.
And in the course of executing the search warrant, did you find one of those handguns?
Yes.
What handgun was that?
The Ruger LC9.
And that was seized and taken to evidence?
It was.
And sent for testing?
It was.
The other handgun that you mentioned, what was that? I'm sorry?
A Ruger SR9 9mm.
Was that found anywhere in the defendant's residence?
No.
So, Mike, looking ahead to next week, prosecutors, they plan on calling 4 crime lab professionals. These are witnesses from California and multiple detectives. What do you think about that testimony? What should we be anticipating?
Well, that testimony is always very interesting because they bring forth that testimony. A lot of times there aren't matches. A lot of times what the government will do is they'll show that they did a thorough investigation and it'll explain why certain things don't specifically match. That's the kind of testimony can really cut both ways in front of a jury. And it's very interesting to see how they try to connect it with other facts to make it either more admissible or it's something the defense wants to stay away from.
Well, Terry, let's focus in on what happened this week for a second. So based on the items that were found in Bliefnick's home and the search history that we talked a lot about, you tell me, how's the prosecution doing? How's their case shaping up after week 1 of this trial?
Jesse, I watched some of this trial, and I definitely think the prosecution has a leg up on this case. First of all, the crime scene investigator who testified said that there were all of these shell casings at the crime scene. And if they can, in fact, match that all up to the shell casings and the bullets and the guns in the house, and it seems like they're on their way to do that. Of course, you can question it, but it does seem as though they'll be able to match that all up. That's very strong evidence. Then they have the autopsy pictures and the report, and they tried to keep that out. The defense did not want that to come in, but it got in. And I think some of it is very gruesome and graphic, and I think the jury is going to be swayed by that. And then, finally, those Google searches. If you are searching how to make a silencer, and you are also searching how to get gunpowder off your hand, and how long does it take the police to respond, that is definitely consciousness of guilt.
Assuming he searched them, the defense saying he might not have, but a little hard to fight against that. Mike, Terry, thank you both so much. Everyone out there, thanks for joining us here on Law&Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.